The plasma bolt missed Commander Jake Murphy's head by 3 inches. He didn't flinch. The Vraxian ambassador had just fired on a human diplomatic vessel, and that single act of aggression would doom his entire civilization. Murphy watched the alien's 4 eyes widen as the ambassador realized what he'd done. The weapon clattered to the floor of the negotiation chamber. "You just made the worst mistake in your species' history," Murphy said quietly. The Vraxian ambassador, whose name translated roughly to Crix, backed toward the wall. His insectoid body trembled. "Your kind threatened our expansion. You refused to surrender the outer colonies." Murphy activated his comm implant. "All human vessels, this is Murphy. We are now at war with the Vraxian Collective. Execute Protocol Harbinger." Across 20 star systems, humanity's response began immediately. The Vraxians had been watching humans for 2 years, studying their commerce ships, their mining operations, their seemingly peaceful expansion. They'd counted only 12 human warships. They'd seen farmers and traders and scientists. They'd concluded that humanity was soft, ripe for conquest. They were wrong about everything. Lieutenant Amy Foster sat in the command center of Fortress Echo, buried 3 miles beneath the surface of Mars. The moment Murphy's order came through, she pressed her palm against the activation console. Around her, 200 officers began their work in perfect silence. They'd trained for this moment for 15 years. "Bring 'em all online," Amy said. In the asteroid belt, mining stations transformed. Their hulls split open, revealing weapon systems that had been hidden inside hollowed-out rocks for decades. Each station had enough firepower to level a planet. There were 800 of them. On Europa, beneath the ice, submarine factories activated. They'd been building combat drones for 12 years, disguised as research equipment. 20,000 autonomous warships began their journey to the surface, breaking through the frozen ocean like mechanical sharks. The Vraxian fleet consisted of 4,000 vessels. They considered it overwhelming force. They'd positioned them throughout human space, ready to strike every colony simultaneously. Their strategy was sound. Their intelligence was fatally incomplete. Captain Derek Hayes commanded the civilian transport vessel Dawn Trader. It carried medical supplies and food to the outer rim. At least, that's what the manifest said. When Amy's signal reached him, Derek entered a 16-digit code into the ship's computer. The cargo bay walls folded away. Missile batteries rose from concealed compartments. The Dawn Trader's engines, previously limited to commercial speeds, surged to military-grade thrust. "All hands battle stations," Derek announced. Around him, his crew of 20 civilians shed their cover identities. They were Special Forces operators who'd been playing their roles for 3 years. Every human merchant ship in space underwent the same transformation. There were 6,000 of them. The Vraxian battle coordinator, Zex, watched his tactical display with growing confusion. Human civilian ships were attacking his forces, but these weren't panicked refugees trying to flee. They moved with military precision, their weapons striking with impossible accuracy. His crews were reporting losses, significant losses. "How many warships do they have?" Zex demanded. His intelligence officer's voice shook. "Sir, we're detecting 8,000 armed vessels, and they're still appearing. Something's coming up from Europa's ocean. The asteroids are firing on us. Sir, the asteroids are firing on us." Zehex felt his blood turn cold. Humanity had fooled them completely. Every civilian ship was a disguised warship. Every mining station was a hidden fortress. Every colony had military installations buried beneath innocent-looking settlements. The humans hadn't been unprepared for war. They'd been waiting for it. They'd spent decades preparing, knowing that eventually someone would make the mistake of attacking them. Murphy remained in the negotiation chamber watching Crix collapse against the wall. The ambassador's translator device spoke in a hollow voice. "We didn't know. We thought you were weak." "Everyone thinks that at first," Murphy replied. "The galaxy is about to learn what happens when you threaten human children, human homes, human lives. We gave you every chance to walk away. You chose war. Now you'll see what humans have been holding back. The first major engagement happened near Titan Station. Braxian Commander Velk led 300 warships toward what he believed was a lightly defended human outpost. His orders were simple: destroy the station and everyone on it. Send a message that the Vraxian collective doesn't negotiate. He expected to find terrified civilians and perhaps a handful of defense platforms. Instead, he found hell. Titan Station didn't look impressive from the outside. A simple ring structure spinning lazily in space, covered with solar panels and communication arrays. Velk's scanners showed 5,000 human civilians aboard. He felt a moment of hesitation. Then he remembered his orders. He gave the command to fire. The station's solar panels detached. Beneath them were railgun emplacements the size of office buildings. The communication arrays split apart, revealing electron beam projectors that could slice through ship armor like paper. The station stopped spinning. 6 hidden docking bays opened, and starfighters poured out like angry hornets. There were 2,000 of them. "Evasive maneuvers," Velk shouted, but it was already too late. The railguns fired. Each projectile traveled at a significant fraction of light speed. Vraxian shields designed to stop energy weapons might as well have been made of tissue paper. The first salvo destroyed 60 ships in 4 seconds. Lieutenant Kelly Brooks piloted her fighter out of Titan Station's bay with her squadron of 40 pilots right behind her. They'd been living on that station for 2 years, pretending to be maintenance workers and engineers. Every day they'd practice their launch procedures in simulation. Now it was real. "Gold Squadron, break into attack formation," Kelly ordered. Her fighter's weapon systems came online. She'd named her ship Banshee, and it was about to live up to that name. The Varaxians were scrambling, trying to regroup. They weren't used to being on the defensive. Kelly's targeting computer locked onto a Vraxian cruiser. She fired a spread of missiles, then dove beneath its firing arc. The missiles struck home, punching through the ship's engine section. It began to spin out of control, colliding with 2 of its fellow vessels. Kelly was already moving to her next target. Her squadron moved like a single organism. They'd trained together since they were teenagers, recruited specifically for this type of combat. The Vraxians fought as individuals, each captain making their own decisions. It cost them. Within 15 minutes, Velk had lost half his fleet. The survivors were fleeing. Amy watched the battle data stream into Fortress Echo. Every human vessel was transmitting real-time tactical information. The AI systems processed it instantly, creating a perfect picture of the entire battle space across 20 star systems. She could see every Vraxian ship, every human asset, every weapon fired. The Vraxians had nothing like this level of coordination. Braxian fleet elements are retreating from sectors 7, 12, and 19, one of her officers reported. They're trying to consolidate near their forward base at Kepler Station. Amy studied the tactical display. The Vaxians thought they were being clever, pulling back to a defensive position. They didn't realize they were walking into a trap humanity had prepared 6 years ago. She opened a channel to Captain Lisa Morgan, who commanded the stealth vessel Shadow Walk. "Captain Morgan, the Vraxians are coming to you. Time to wake up the Krakens." Lisa smiled in the darkness of her ship's bridge. Shadow Walk had been floating dormant in the Kepler system for 3 years, its systems running cold, invisible to Vraxian sensors. Around her ship, buried in the system's debris field, were 50 autonomous warships called Krakens. Each one was controlled by an advanced AI with a single purpose: destroy enemy vessels. They'd been waiting patiently for the Vraxians to gather in one place. "Activating Krakens now," Lisa confirmed. She entered the launch codes. In the debris field, the Krakens woke up. Their stealth systems kept them invisible as they moved into position. The Vraxian fleet was arriving, ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel in clusters. They thought they were safe. They thought they'd found sanctuary. The Krakens struck without warning. Each one selected a target and fired penetrator rounds designed specifically to pierce Varaxian armor. The rounds were small but incredibly dense, traveling fast enough to pass completely through a ship's hull. They didn't explode. They didn't need to. The holes they created exposed the ship's interior to vacuum. Crews died instantly, systems failed, ships went dark. Zehex, the Vraxian battle coordinator, watched his fleet dissolve. He'd started the day with 4,000 warships. Now he had fewer than 2,000, and the numbers were dropping every minute. His intelligence had been catastrophically wrong. Humans didn't have 12 warships. They had thousands, maybe tens of thousands. And every single one was attacking with precision that suggested a level of coordination his species had never achieved. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Collective High Command," his communications officer said. "They want a status report." Z-Hex didn't know what to tell them. How do you explain that you've led an entire species to the brink of extinction in less than 6 hours? He thought about lying, but the truth would come out eventually. Better to face it now. "Tell them we need to surrender immediately," Zek said quietly. "Tell them we've lost the war." His officers stared at him in shock. The Vraxian collective had never surrendered. They'd conquered 17 species over the past 2 centuries. They were the dominant military power in this region of space. Or they had been until 6 hours ago. "Sir, the High Command won't accept surrender without understanding why," the communications officer said. "What do we tell them?" Zex looked at his tactical display, watching his ships die one by one. "Tell them we attacked humans. Tell them we made them angry. Tell them that humanity isn't a species of peaceful traders. They're a species of warriors who pretend to be peaceful until someone threatens their families. We saw what they wanted us to see. Now we're seeing what they really are, and it's too late to stop what's coming." The Vraxian High Command refused to believe Zehex's assessment. They ordered him to continue the attack, to commit their reserve forces. They sent another 2,000 ships. Commander Jake Murphy learned about this decision while still aboard the diplomatic vessel with the trembling Ambassador Crix. He shook his head slowly. "Your leaders just killed 2,000 more crews," Murphy said to Crix. "They still don't understand. We're not fighting to win territory. We're not fighting for resources. We're fighting to make sure no species ever threatens humanity again. Your people are about to become a lesson for the entire galaxy." Murphy opened a secure channel to Admiral Chris Bennett, commander of Earth's defense fleet. "Admiral, the Varaxians are sending reinforcements. They haven't learned yet." Bennett's voice came through calm and measured. "Then we'll teach them." Activating the fleet carriers. In Earth's orbit, 20 massive structures had been floating for 8 years. They looked like commercial space stations, places where cargo was transferred between planetary and interstellar vessels. Each one supposedly employed 5,000 workers. The Vraxian intelligence service had files on them. They were considered low-priority targets. The stations unfolded, their outer shells separated into sections, revealing their true purpose. Each structure wasn't a cargo station. It was a fleet carrier capable of deploying 500 warships. 10,000 human vessels poured out of Earth's orbit in a coordinated wave. They'd been built in secret, assembled inside the fake cargo stations, waiting for the day someone forced humanity to show its true military strength. Captain Ryan Cooper stood on the bridge of the carrier Independence, watching his fighters launch. He'd been part of the deception for 6 years, playing the role of a cargo station manager. His crew had been carefully selected operators who could maintain their cover identities while secretly running military drills. The station's supposed workers were pilots, engineers, and tactical officers. "All squadrons away," his launch coordinator reported. "We have clean separation on all 500 craft." Ryan watched the tactical display fill with friendly icons. 20 fleet carriers, 10,000 ships. And this was just Earth's contribution. Mars had its own fleet. So did the colonies on Europa, Titan, and the settlements in the Outer Rim. Humanity had spent 40 years preparing for this moment, ever since first contact with hostile aliens had taught them a hard lesson. The galaxy wasn't friendly, and peace was only possible when you were too strong to attack. The Vraxian reinforcements never stood a chance. They arrived in human space expecting to join a winning battle. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by a fleet that outnumbered them 5-1. The human ships didn't even try to negotiate. They simply attacked with overwhelming force. Lieutenant Amy Foster watched the battle data at Fortress Echo. The AI systems were processing information from 23,000 human vessels now. The Vraxians had started with 6,000 ships total. They had fewer than 800 left, and those were scattered across a dozen systems, cut off from each other, hunted by human forces that knew exactly where they were. "Ma'am, we're detecting a transmission from the Vraxian homeworld," one of her officers said. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies. It's a surrender offer." Amy listened to the translation. The Vraxian High Command was begging for terms. They offered to abandon all territory, to pay reparations, to give humanity anything they wanted. They just wanted the killing to stop. Their civilization was 8 hours old into a war they'd started with confidence, and they were already broken. Murphy received the surrender offer aboard the diplomatic vessel. Crix was weeping, a strange sight from the insectoid alien. His translator spoke between sobs. "Please, my family is on the homeworld. We were wrong. We were so wrong about your kind." Murphy felt no satisfaction in the moment. He'd seen this pattern before. Humanity had fought 4 wars with alien species over the past 60 years. Every time, it went the same way. An aggressive species would see humans as soft targets. They'd attack. Then humanity would reveal what it had been hiding, and the war would be over in hours or days. The galaxy never learned. "I'll forward your surrender to command," Murphy said, "but understand something, Crix. Your species will never be a threat again. We won't exterminate you. That's not who we are. But we will occupy your worlds. We will dismantle your military. We will integrate your civilization into human-led systems where you'll never have the ability to threaten anyone again. Your children will grow up in a galaxy where humans make the rules." Crix nodded weakly. "Anything? Just stop the killing." Admiral Bennett received the surrender offer and immediately opened a channel to all human forces. "All vessels, ceasefire. The Vraxians have surrendered. Transition to occupation protocols. Across 20 star systems, human ships stopped shooting. The Vraxian survivors were given coordinates to proceed to where they would be disarmed and their crews processed. Some tried to run. Human forces hunted them down efficiently. There would be no escape, no chance to regroup and try again later. Captain Derek Hayes stood on the bridge of his transformed merchant vessel, now revealed as the warship it had always been. His crew was exhausted but professional. They destroyed 3 Vraxian cruisers and disabled 5 more. Not bad for a ship that was supposed to be carrying medical supplies. "Stand down from combat stations," Derek ordered. "Prepare for occupation duty. We're going to be babysitting Vraxian worlds for the next few years." One of his officers, Lieutenant Paul Grant, looked troubled. "Sir, doesn't it bother you? We spend decades pretending to be peaceful, and then we crush anyone who tests us. Are we really the good guys here?" Derek considered the question. He'd been asking himself the same thing for years. "The Vaxians fired first, Paul. They declared war on us. They planned to exterminate our colonies. We gave them every opportunity to walk away. They chose violence. We're not the aggressors. We're just very, very good at defense." Kelly Brooks flew her fighter back to Titan Station, which was now revealing its true nature as a military fortress. The spinning ring had been a facade. The structure beneath was angular and armored, bristling with weapons. She guided Banshee into the landing bay, where maintenance crews were already working on damaged fighters. She climbed out of her cockpit and removed her helmet. Her hands were shaking. She'd killed today, a lot. Her fighter's computer said she'd destroyed 11 Vraxian vessels personally. That meant hundreds of enemy crew members were dead because of her actions. She wanted to feel guilty. She wanted to feel like a monster. Instead, she just felt tired. Her squadron commander, Major Scott Palmer, approached. "Good work out there, Brooks. You saved lives today. Remember that. Every Vraxian ship you destroyed was a ship that wouldn't attack our colonies, wouldn't kill our civilians. You're a hero." Kelly nodded, but she didn't feel like a hero. She felt like someone who'd been forced into a role she never wanted. That's what war did. It turned regular people into killers and told them it was necessary. The worst part was, it was necessary. The Vraxians had given humanity no choice. 3 days after the surrender, Commander Murphy stood in the main plaza of the Vraxian capital city on their homeworld, Vraxians Prime. The city looked surprisingly similar to human cities, tall buildings reaching toward the sky, wide streets filled with vehicles. Except now, those streets were patrolled by human soldiers, and orbital platforms above the planet ensured no one was launching any surprise attacks. The Vraxian population was terrified. They'd been told by their government that they were the dominant military power, that humanity was weak and scattered. Now human ships filled their skies, and human forces controlled every major city on their planet. The transition from conquerors to conquered had taken less than 72 hours. Murphy met with the surviving members of the Vraxian High Command in what used to be their war room. 5 elderly Vraxians sat around a table, their bodies slumped in defeat. The leader, whose name translated to Greth, spoke through a translator device. "What will you do with us?" Greth asked. "Will you exterminate our species? Make us slaves?" Murphy pulled up a chair and sat down. He wanted them to see him as a person, not a conqueror. "Neither. We're going to rebuild your civilization, but with some changes. Your military is disbanded permanently. Your weapons factories will be converted to civilian production. Your children will learn about this war in their schools, about the mistake your leaders made when they attacked humanity. And you'll have human advisors in your government for the next 50 years to ensure you never threaten anyone again." Greth's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "You're not going to kill us? After what we tried to do?" Murphy shook his head. "We're not monsters, Greth. We're humans. We believe in second chances. But understand this clearly, there won't be a third chance. If your species ever threatens humanity or any other civilization again, we won't show mercy next time. This is your one opportunity to become part of a peaceful galaxy. I suggest you take it seriously." Lieutenant Amy Foster coordinated the occupation from Fortress Echo. Her job had shifted from war planning to peacekeeping. Human forces were spread across 37 Vraxian worlds, ensuring compliance with the surrender terms. It was a massive undertaking, requiring over 50,000 troops and support personnel. She received a report from Captain Lisa Morgan, who was overseeing the dismantling of Vraxian shipyards. "We've identified 243 military production facilities. They were building new warships at an impressive rate. If we hadn't stopped them now, they would have had 10,000 ships within 5 years." Amy processed that information. The Vraxians had been preparing for a much larger war than what they'd started. They'd intended to hit humanity hard and fast, then use their superior numbers to overwhelm any resistance. They'd been planning genocide on a massive scale. The fact that humanity had stopped them felt like a miracle, except it wasn't a miracle. It was preparation and strategic thinking. "Convert what you can to civilian use," Amy ordered. "Destroy anything that can't be converted. And Lisa, document everything. The galaxy needs to see what the Vraxians were planning." Admiral Bennett called a meeting of all senior commanders at Luna Base, humanity's military headquarters on Earth's moon. 200 officers gathered in the briefing room representing every branch of human military forces. Bennett stood at the podium looking tired but satisfied. "The war with the Vraxian collective is over," Bennett began. "We achieved total victory in less than 4 days. Our casualties number fewer than 3,000 personnel. Vraxian casualties exceed 200,000. These numbers tell a story about preparation and strategic deception. For 40 years, we've been building a military force disguised as a peaceful civilian infrastructure. The galaxy saw merchants and miners. They didn't see the weapons we were hiding, the soldiers pretending to be regular citizens, the vast coordination systems we'd built." He paused, letting that sink in. "But now we face a new challenge. The Vraxians aren't the first species to attack us, and they won't be the last. We need to send a message to every civilization in this galaxy. Attacking humanity has consequences. Not just military defeat, but complete integration into our systems. From now on, any species that declares war on us will lose their independence. They'll become part of humanity's sphere of influence, permanently." Captain Ryan Cooper raised his hand. "Sir, Isn't that imperialism? Are we becoming what we've always opposed? It's a fair question, Captain. I've struggled with it myself. But consider the alternative. We could let hostile species rebuild after we defeat them, give them their independence back, hope they've learned their lesson. History shows that doesn't work. The Krellian Empire attacked us 15 years ago. We defeated them, accepted their surrender, and let them keep their sovereignty. Now, intelligence reports suggest they're rebuilding their fleet, preparing for another attempt. We were too merciful, and it's going to cost us another war. The room fell silent. Everyone knew about the Krellian situation. It was a festering wound in humanity's security strategy, proof that kindness could be mistaken for weakness. The Vrakians will be different, Bennett continued. We're not enslaving them. We're not stealing their resources. We're integrating them into a new model of galactic civilization, one where humans ensure peace through overwhelming military strength. Yes, it's imperialism, but it's imperialism that prevents wars rather than starting them. Derek Hayes listened to Bennett's speech and felt conflicted. He joined the military to protect humanity, not to build an empire. But he couldn't deny the logic. Every time humanity showed mercy to a defeated enemy, that enemy eventually came back for another fight. Maybe it was time to try a different approach. After the briefing, Derek approached Admiral Bennett privately. Sir, what happens when we run into a species stronger than us? What happens when we're the ones who get conquered? Bennett met his eyes. Then we'll face the same fate we're giving the Varaxians. Integration, oversight, loss of independence. That's why we can never let ourselves become weak, Derek. We have to maintain such overwhelming strength that no species would dare attack us. The moment we slip, the moment we become complacent, we'll lose everything. That's the burden of being the strongest. You can never stop being strong. Murphy finished his meeting with the Vraxian High Command and walked outside into the plaza. Vraxian civilians moved through the streets, going about their business under the watchful eyes of human soldiers. Children played in parks while their parents shopped at markets. Life continued, just with new management. A young Vrakian female approached Murphy cautiously. She wore the translator device that had become common in occupied zones. "Are you the human commander?" she asked. Murphy nodded. "I am. Is there something you need?" The Vraxian gestured at the plaza, at the humans patrolling, at the ships in the sky. "Why didn't you kill us all? We attacked your people. We tried to destroy your colonies. In our history, when we conquered others, we showed no mercy. Why are you different?" Murphy considered his answer carefully. "Because we believe civilizations can change. Your leaders made terrible decisions, but that doesn't mean every Vraxian deserves to die. We're giving your species a chance to become better, to be part of something larger than conquest and war. Whether you take that chance or waste it, that's up to your people now." 6 months later, Lieutenant Kelly Brooks found herself assigned to a very different mission. She wasn't flying combat patrols anymore. Instead, she was teaching young Vraxian pilots how to operate civilian spacecraft. The Vraxian students were nervous around her at first, knowing she'd been one of the pilots who destroyed their military fleet. But over weeks of training, relationships began to form. One of her students, a young male named Trix, stayed after class. "Lieutenant Brooks, may I ask you something personal?" Kelly set down the flight manual she'd been reviewing. "Sure, what's on your mind?" Trix's 4 eyes looked at the floor. "How many of my people did you kill during the war?" Kelly had known this question would come eventually. She'd practiced her answer, but it still felt inadequate. 11 ships. I don't know how many crew members were on each one. Probably 700 to 800 total. Trix absorbed this information silently. Then he looked up at her. "My uncle was a ship captain. He died in the battle near Titan Station. I hated you humans for months. I wanted revenge. But then I learned the truth about what our leaders had planned. They were going to exterminate your colonies. Women, children, everyone. My uncle died trying to commit genocide, and you're here teaching me to fly instead of punishing me for what my people tried to do. I don't understand humans." Kelly felt a lump in her throat. "We don't enjoy killing, Trix. We do it when we have to. when there's no other choice. Your uncle made his choice when he followed orders to attack civilians. I made my choice when I defended them. Neither of us wanted that war. Your leaders forced it on both of us." Trix nodded slowly. "The new government says we must never forget what happened. They're building a memorial to the war with the names of every Vracian who died. But they're also including the names of the human casualties. They say we're all victims of bad leadership." "That's a good start," Kelly said. "Remembering is important. Learning from mistakes is even more important." Commander Murphy had been promoted to Ambassador Murphy. His new job was coordinating human relations with integrated species. The Vraxians were the fourth civilization to be brought under human oversight after attacking humanity. The pattern was always the same. Initial resistance followed by acceptance and eventually a grudging admission that life under human guidance wasn't actually terrible. He stood in the Galactic Assembly, a forum where various species met to discuss interstellar issues. Humanity had founded the Assembly 15 years ago, hoping to create a peaceful venue for resolving conflicts. It worked, mostly. But some species still chose war over diplomacy. The Vraxians had been the latest example. An ambassador from the Thelian Consortium approached Murphy during a break. The Thelians were an avian species known for their neutrality. "Ambassador Murphy, my government is concerned about humanity's growing influence. You now control 4 species directly and have defense agreements with 20 others. You're becoming an empire." Murphy didn't deny it. "We're becoming whatever we need to be to prevent wars. Every species we control is one that attacked us first. We don't conquer peaceful civilizations. We only integrate aggressive ones. If the Thelian Consortium remains peaceful, you'll remain independent." The Thelian ambassador ruffled his feathers nervously. "And if we defend ourselves against human expansion?" "We're not expanding into anyone's territory," Murphy replied firmly. "We occupy the worlds of species that declared war on us. That's not expansion, that's consequence. But I understand your concern. You're wondering what happens if we decide you're a threat, even when you're not. The answer is simple. We don't work that way. We have strict protocols. We don't attack first. We don't fabricate reasons for war. We simply respond to aggression with overwhelming force. Stay peaceful and you stay free." Admiral Bennett stood in the war room at Luna Base, studying the tactical map of known space. Human territory had grown significantly over 40 years, not through conquest but through defensive victories. Every red zone on the map represented a formerly hostile species, now integrated into human systems. Every green zone represented an allied civilization that had chosen cooperation over conflict. Captain Derek Hayes, now promoted to Admiral Hayes, stood beside him. "Sir, intelligence reports that the Krellian Empire is moving forward with their rearmament program. They'll be ready to attack us again within 2 years. Bennett nodded. "Then we have 2 years to prepare for war number 5. What have we learned from the Vraxian conflict?" Derek pulled up a data file. "That our deception strategy works perfectly. The Krellians think we have 30,000 warships. Actual number is closer to 200,000. They think we have 50 military bases. Actual number is 800. They're making the same mistake the Vraxians made. They see what we want them to see." Bennett smiled grimly. "Good. Let them attack. Let them learn the same lesson everyone else has learned. Humanity doesn't look dangerous until you threaten us. Then we show you what we've been hiding. The Krellians will join the Brachians, the Horthans, and the Zelkari in human custody. Maybe after 5 examples, the galaxy will finally understand the message." "And what message is that, sir?" Derek asked. "That peace is possible, but only when everyone knows the cost of war. We're not building an empire because we want to. We're building it because every attempt at peaceful coexistence has failed. Species keep testing us, keep thinking we're weak, keep forcing us to prove otherwise. Eventually, every civilization in this galaxy will either be our ally or our subject. Those are the only 2 options we're offering anymore." Amy Foster had been promoted to General Foster, in charge of all occupation forces across human-controlled territories. She spent her days managing the integration of 4 different alien species into human systems. It was exhausting work balancing security needs with the rights of conquered populations, but she was good at it, finding ways to give people freedom within the constraints of occupation. She received a message from Murphy asking her to join him at the Galactic Assembly. There was a proposal on the floor from several neutral species. They wanted to create an independent peacekeeping force that could intervene in conflicts before they escalated to war. The idea was that humanity wouldn't need to fight so often if there was a neutral body preventing aggression. Amy met Murphy in the assembly lobby. "What do you think of their proposal?" she asked. Murphy shrugged. "It's naive, but well-intentioned. They want to create an organization with military power but no national loyalty. History shows that doesn't work. Someone always ends up controlling it, using it for their own purposes. But we should support the proposal anyway. Let them try. If it works, great. If it fails, at least we gave them the chance." "You think it will fail?" Amy stated. "I know it will fail," Murphy replied, "because the fundamental problem isn't the lack of peacekeeping forces. It's that some species are inherently aggressive. They see weakness as opportunity. They view peaceful species as prey. No amount of neutral intervention will change that. Only strength prevents aggression. Only overwhelming, undeniable, terrifying strength makes aggressive species think twice before attacking." They walked into the assembly chamber together. The debate was already underway, with representatives from 30 species arguing about the details of the peacekeeping proposal. Humans had a permanent seat on the council along with 5 other founding species. Murphy took his place and listened to the arguments. A young ambassador from the Vraxian delegation stood to speak. It was Crix, the same ambassador who'd fired the shot that started the war 6 months ago. He'd been allowed to keep his position as a gesture of reconciliation. His voice shook as he addressed the assembly. "I speak as someone who made the worst mistake of my life when I fired on a human diplomat. My species paid a terrible price for my aggression. We lost our independence, our military, our pride, but we gained something unexpected. We gained peace. For the first time in our history, we're not planning wars or plotting conquests. Our children are learning to build instead of destroy. And it's because humanity showed us what real strength looks like. Not the strength to attack, but the strength to defend. Not the strength to conquer, but the strength to integrate. I support this peacekeeping proposal, but I also want every species in this assembly to understand something. If you attack humanity, if you threaten their families or their worlds, you will lose. You will lose everything. They tried to warn us. We didn't listen. Learn from our mistake." The chamber fell silent. Then, slowly, several ambassadors began to applaud. Not everyone joined in, but enough did to make the point. The galaxy was learning. Slowly, painfully, but learning nonetheless. Humanity hadn't wanted to become enforcers of galactic peace. They'd been forced into that role by species that mistook kindness for weakness. Now, 6 months after the Vraxian War, the message was finally getting through. Murphy looked at Amy and allowed himself a small smile. Maybe, just maybe, they wouldn't have to fight War number 5. Maybe the Krellians would see what happened to the Vraxians and reconsider. Maybe peace was possible after all, enforced by the knowledge that humanity was too strong, too prepared, and too determined to ever be conquered. The species that had declared war against humans had indeed sealed their fate. But that fate wasn't extermination. It was integration, education, and eventually acceptance of a galaxy where humans made the rules because everyone else had proven they couldn't be trusted with that responsibility.